Hi everyone, I'm going to show you how to get your sourdough starter started. The stuff from your lab kit that you need for this is your plastic spoon, one of your mason jars, and your napkin. So these lids are in two parts. You don't need this part. If you have a teaspoon measure, or like at least a teaspoon measure or a teaspoon and a tablespoon, use these instead of your plastic spoon. So if you have the plastic spoon, you're going to take between 4.5 to 5 scoops of flour from your little bag of flour. And it should be pretty level, like so. So about 4.5 to 5 scoops like that, or 2 tablespoons. So I'm going to use tablespoons. So there's my 2 tablespoons of flour. The next thing I need is 2 tablespoons of dechlorinated tap water. The dechlorination part is super important. We use chlorine gas in Chicago to disinfect our water, which is great. It keeps us all from getting sick. But in this case, we really need the microorganisms alive. So to dechlorinate your tap water, just leave it out overnight. You can pour a glass of water the night before and then use that as your sourdough starter water the next day. So again, 2 tablespoons of this, or if you're using the plastic spoon, then 4.5 to 5 spoonfuls. And when I say spoonfuls, I mean level spoonfuls. Okay, then the next thing you have to do is mix it around. Actually, if you have a chopstick is great for this. Or if you just have your little plastic spoon, that's good too. It's ideal not to get too much of it on the sides. You sort of want to be able to see the sides as it starts getting going. And the more stuff that's on the sides, the more likely you are to grow microorganisms. So you're just going to kind of mix this together until it's all the same consistency and you don't have any lumps. Mine's pretty much done now, I would say. The last thing you should do is kind of do your best to scrape the sides down with your spoon. Again, that's partly so it'll help you see it as it starts going, but also because it'll help keep microorganisms that you don't want from growing on the sides. Okay, so that is that. A couple other things you want to do before you put the top on. So you should smell it. Look at the aroma wheel and say what you think it smells like. You also want to take your ruler. I forgot to get your ruler out. You want to get your ruler and measure the height of the starter. So I don't have my ruler out, but I would say that looks like about 1 centimeter. Then you also want to measure the radius of the jar. So that's the diameter, the distance from across to across, divided by 2. And then the last thing you want to measure is pH. And so here's how you measure pH. Okay, so you have a baggie of about 15 pH strips. So there's an end that you can touch and an end that you should avoid touching. That's the end with the colors on it. So to measure the pH of your starter, you're going to take a small scoop out and then rest the pH strip on that little scoop for about 10 seconds. All right, now you can't read it at all because it's covered in sourdough starter. So I would just say swipe it off with your finger. This is an imperfect method. You can swipe it off with your finger so you can kind of see what color it is. And then you're going to match it to the scale. So your scale is probably printed on your data sheet. I didn't have enough of these scales to send to everybody. But basically you want to find the closest match for all 4 colors. And that's going to be a little bit tricky because you just put sourdough starter on it. So they're all a little bit lighter than the scale looks like. But to me, this looks like about 6.5. It looks to me more like 6.5 than 7. So that's what I would record next to the height of my starter, the diameter of my jar, and the aroma. That's how you start it.